Well, OPEX has a very good collection of people coming from different businesses and people with a background where they're curious about generative AI and how can it be applied to their own businesses. And these are the exact set of people that we want to talk to and learn from them. What are their pain points right now? And we have met so many people here who think that the problems that we are bringing to the problems we are solving and bringing solutions for are the problems that they are also thinking about. So it was great for us to be here and talk to them. Yeah, so about for 5 decades, we have been trying to train humans to speak the language of machines. We call them developers, or they are hired in IT, and we have been struggling to increase the number of people who can really speak the language of machines and get some stuff done for the businesses. So we've gone from various computer languages to no code, low code systems. But even today, if you look at IT, it's always overburdened. There's a lot of work to be done. That is what we want to fundamentally change. So instead of focusing on training humans to speak a language that's very different from what's natural to them, we are training machines to speak the language of humans. So now for the first time, and we have the first creation of this where the machine can understand natural language from the business users and can faithfully execute it like it faithfully executed other machine code. So RPA was a technology where you would take some developers or at least developer mindset people and give them a business task. And the business task is expressed in natural language. These are the steps that my business usually wants to do. And then they would take that and automate it in some kind of workflow or some kind of automation tool. And that required a developer's mindset. And once you implement that, that's not enough. When the logic breaks because somebody forgot to tell you about some edge case, you have to pull in the IT developer and say, hey, did you forget something? And there's finger pointing between the business side and the developer side. And then you have to go and fix that code. The entire experience of that automation development lifecycle is extremely painful and slow. It spirals into a lot of cost that was not expected to be there from day one. That is what will change once you bring the ability to understand natural language to the business user. Now suddenly you're democratizing the power of telling the machine what is really needed. So instead of being limited by the IT department, now businesses can leverage all of their people to accelerate innovation. And generative AI, and we have seen it in this conference as well, is coming at a rapid pace. And enabling everybody in your business to be the people who are riding this quote unquote horse of generative AI is what is needed, and that's how Kognitos is making it different for businesses. So I'll give you an analogy, right? So when you're driving a self-driving car like a Tesla and you're going in on the highway, it's possibly fine, but the moment it sees there's something confusing, it actually will beep and ask you to take over, right? That is exception handling. There is an exceptional situation that the machine was not ready to handle yet because the machine isn't at the level that humans are in terms of handling these edge cases. Humans are the best exception handling systems in the world. So the machine will ask the human to come in and the human can grab the steering wheel and steer it. Now the machine records that and it goes into its data set, and therefore over the next iteration it will get better and better. So that is exception handling. Contrast it with other systems where the human cannot be pulled in to help, like for example the GM Cruise situation in San Francisco, where the car entered a bad situation, but since there was no human to help and it's not even programmed to ask the human, it just made a decision which actually made the situation worse. There was a person got hurt in the process. So having AI systems that allow humans to be in the exception handling role is extremely important. Otherwise, the AI system will just get recalled like GM Cruise got recalled. You need systems where the human is still responsible and able to drive it. The main thing that's needed is a steering wheel that everybody understands. Today, there are 1.5 billion cars in the world. About 1 billion people know how to drive cars. And therefore, you can ask them to grab the steering wheel and steer the car. To contrast, there are only 25 million developers in the world. So it cannot be that your steering wheel is a piece of software or some RPA tool. It has to be something more democratic. And that is what we are bringing to the market. It's the first system where your steering wheel, your automation is in natural language, and the system is faithful to that as if it was the steering wheel for your business. The value is obtained very quickly because of the one thing that this paradigm of using natural language with exception handling brings. You get value as soon as you have figured out what is the happy path, or the sunny day scenario, or what's the most common way. Say you're doing processing of invoices or onboarding new customers or partners or claim processing. There is a standard operating procedure. The moment you figure that out in English and given it to the system, you can immediately put it in production. Now compare it with other systems where that is not enough. You actually have to think about all the edge cases where it might fail, because you don't want an accident to happen, because these systems do not have the ability of pulling in a human and saying, hey, you take over and I'll learn from you. All of software for the last 50 years has been about the developer needs to think about all the edge cases up front. So right now what we do in the world of RPA, we have to do process mining, process discovery. You understand the process first, and then that's a massive flow diagram, a spaghetti. Then you give it to IT. IT looks at it and automates that over weeks and months. Instead, with this new approach where the human and machine are going hand in hand, and the human is always able to help if the machine doesn't know, you just take the standard operating procedures already there, and very quickly in a week, you'll have something running, and maybe you get 80% of the benefit. And the remaining 20% you can figure out over time. At the same time, you could say, instead of making this 80% go to 90%, I might as well take another process and automate that. And instead of 0% automation, I get that to 80%. So it's a different mindset that comes when you actually have a paradigm where natural language is something that can be used. Generative AI is not only here to stay, it will change the world in a very, very significant way. Um, in the industrial age, we were automating manual labor, right? So one person could lift something, move it there, and now we have machines that could do 100 times what a human could do, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. Like an airplane or a space shuttle is very powerful. The same thing is going to happen on the mental labor side. Generative AI is a manifestation of mental labor where a machine can think for you. Now ChatGPT and others are at maybe 1x of what a human can do, maybe slightly less today. High school level they've gotten it. How can it be 1000x or a millionx? We can't even fathom what that's going to do. But the fact is it is going to happen. So what we need to understand is, just like in the industrial age, any powerful machine, we always had a steering wheel in our hand, and that made it safe. With generative AI, as we are deploying it in our businesses, we have to make it safe by putting the steering wheel not just in the hand of a handful of IT people, because the responsibility is too big now. The entire business is moving fast because of generative AI. The steering wheel has to be in the hands of everybody in the business. So we have to democratize the power of AI, train everybody to use AI, and IT should be responsible for making it safe and secure and the governance part, but the business logic gets back actually in the hands of the business. So that's the change that's going to happen with generative AI.